friends. I'm your host, Erin Port, and welcome to the Simple Purposeful Living Podcast. Life can be overwhelming and busy, so once a week, I invite you to join me, and together we will make simple tweaks to uncomplicate the hard parts of our life so we can spend more time doing what we love. I can't believe I'm saying this, but welcome to the 100th episode of the Simple Purposeful Living Podcast. I can't believe it. It's been nearly 2 years since I had the idea and pushed record on my very first podcast. And I had no idea that we'd be here today, that so many of you would show up week after week looking for practical inspiration, tiny tweaks, and encouragement to live your life more simple on purpose. We've learned together that you don't have to overhaul your life to love it when one tiny tweak will do. And I'm one to celebrate, take a pause, and just appreciate where we are today. And I wanted to do something special. And so I wanted to share with you, because I don't get to speak with you all in person. You're just listening on here with me, and I'm so grateful. But I thought I'd share with you a keynote that I share when I talk in person, when I go to a speaking engagement. And this is really the heartbeat behind Simple Purposeful Living. So I thought it would be appropriate to share it with you. You've heard many of these breadcrumbs, many of these ideas in different iterations on different episodes, but I thought we'd put it all together and kind of share with you what the heartbeat is of Simple Purposeful Living. If I were to share in 45 minutes with an audience, this is what I'd share with them. And it's really this idea of how to escape from overwhelm without escaping your life. So let's go ahead and get started. Grab your cup of coffee, your lemon water, turn it up in the carpool lane, whatever you're doing. I hope you enjoy this 100th episode of the podcast. And again, if you are listening for the first time or the 100th time, I'm just so grateful that you're here and you make this possible. It's all because of you. All right, let's dive in. I'm going to take you back to 2019, June of 2019 to be specific. That's the month that we finally were able to hold Quincy James Port in our arms. It had been a 2.5-year adoption process, and we brought Quincy home, and it was very clear early on that Quincy had a lot more medical needs than we even understood. He had 0 words, and it wasn't because he didn't speak English, he didn't speak Mandarin either. He was severely malnourished, he could barely walk. Lots and lots of needs. So we spent most of 2019 acclimating to a family of 6, getting him the help that he needed, most readily just getting his lungs to breathe correctly. And then from there, kind of just diagnosing different things and helping him get the care that he needed. But it was pretty clear early on that he was going to probably need some special education, some more help in the classroom. And we were in a bigger district. And so we kind of looked around and decided in our house, while it worked for us, there were some things we wanted to change as a family of 6. Just realistically, we tried to hire contractors to see if we could add on. But all of that combined, we were kind of like, you know what? I think we need to move. I don't know why we chose that season to move, but God knew. But all that to say, in January of 2020, we started to really look into moving to a smaller town. And in the midst of that, getting Quincy diagnosed with some just help with therapies and things. And so brings us to March 2020. We all remember March 2020, but we left for spring break to go to Arizona. And I caught a lot of flack online for going on spring break. But what a lot of people didn't know at that time was my sister and brother-in-law and niece were moving to Luxembourg, and this was probably the last time we were going to see them for a long time. It turned out, because of the pandemic, we didn't see them for nearly, I think it was like 21 months. It was a really long time. And I'm so grateful that we went, but I couldn't tell people because they hadn't made it public yet. It was still all behind the scenes. But all that was going on. We went and we said goodbye to them. We spent some time with our family in the backyard of my parents' desert home. And in the midst of that, we were also finalizing floor plan for our house. We wired our builder money, signed a contract. We were like, yes. And while there was whispers of a virus, I don't think any of us really knew or understood what was coming. And so we got home from spring break, we'd signed on the dotted line that we were moving, and then the world shut down. And what we thought was a 2-week shutdown ended up being much, much longer, as we both know. And I rolled into life of homeschooling 4 kids, putting our house on the market in the middle of a pandemic, packing up our house, moving into a 2-bedroom rental because that's all that we could find for short term. And also acting as Quincy's therapist because right before we found out he needed speech, physical, and occupational therapy. But when the world shut down, people couldn't come to your home. So I acted as his primary therapist, getting coaching from telehealth. When I tell you all of that combined was overwhelming, it was overwhelming. I was treading water not just for myself, but for my family. And many of you, while the circumstances might look slightly different, could probably look back on that time and feel that very same way. Overwhelmed, stretched thin, feeling like you just can't do anything, right? And while we would have loved to have like a big solution to this problem, it wasn't within our power. And so this is the season in which I really harnessed the power of a tiny tweak. This is really where it started to feel like the only solution. I didn't have another way out. I didn't have the time or the energy or the wherewithal to have a major life overhaul, let alone the world wasn't going to allow it either. But I could make the tweak to wash my face and put on real clothes and write in my gratitude journal and go outside for a walk. And every Tuesday, we'd go through the drive-thru at Taco John's and we'd eat a picnic lunch and celebrate we survived another week. And now that that season has passed, 5 years in the rearview mirror, can anybody believe it? For many of us, we still feel that overwhelm. Maybe you're not in a pandemic anymore, but you're caring for aging parents. Or like me, your son recently received a diagnosis that you're trying to wade through and figure out how you're going to help him thrive. Maybe you're managing carpools or just wondering how you're going to feed your family this week or the cost of groceries or any named thing that comes to mind when you feel overwhelmed. Life is busy. But we look up one day, and this is a hard truth. We look up one day and we say to ourselves, am I actually enjoying any of this? Am I actually even enjoying my life? And if you haven't felt that, well, it's probably coming. And if you have, you're normal. I felt that way too, right? But here's the thing, life moves fast. It's not slowing down. And I have a high school freshman, and let me tell you, the high school years, his freshman year is always zipped by. And the person that said the days may be long, but the years are short was right. So how do we escape the overwhelm and fall in the life that we love with the life we have, that we're not just managing it 24/7, but also not escape our life, right? Because we want to love the life that we've been given. It's our only one. And we think we need a big fix, right? We think we need a big solution. And here's why. You're not abnormal for thinking that way. Science shows us that our brain actually craves a big solution because a big solution gives us a good dopamine hit. If we have a big goal, we're like, yeah, we get that dopamine hit and our body craves dopamine. I mean, does yours? Mine does. Also, the world, social media, Hollywood, they love a big solution. It makes a better movie. It makes a better story. It makes a better reel, right? We crave the big solution, the fancy, the glitzy, the everything. But guess what? Research actually doesn't support that. Behavioral science, habit formation, and even neuroplasticity research tells a different story. That small, consistent shifts create the longest term habits and the most success. AKA a tiny tweak makes all the difference. But we knew that all along, right? 100 episodes in, we know a tiny tweak makes all the difference. But let me give you a little bit of an example of what the world kind of tells us. And you're going to think this example is silly, and that's on purpose. But imagine if your car was making a weird noise, and rather than getting it diagnosed or thinking of maybe a solution, you say your solution is, I'm just going to buy a new car. I'm going to buy a new car. And that would be a little bit overkill, right? But we do this all the time with our lives. We're exhausted. So we decide the only solution is to move to a desert island. Or we're out of shape. So we're going to sign up for the 90-day CrossFit challenge. Or I'm tired of figuring out what's for supper. So I'm going to meal prep the next 90 days this Sunday. Right? These big solutions, and they all seem overwhelming, right? And that's true. Big solutions create more overwhelm. But what if the answer wasn't a completely new car, but just a realignment? It's the same for our lives, and this is why tweaks work. Number one, Tweaks give you something to stand on when you're sinking. When life feels like too much, and I've had those moments, I know you have too, big changes feel impossible. When we brought Quincy home, the idea of a life overhaul was too much. I didn't have it in me. We didn't have it in us in the pandemic, but a tiny change, I could do that. I could structure that into my everyday life. All right. It's a tiny tweak is like grabbing the edge of the pool when you feel like you're drowning. I'm not asking you to get out. I'm not asking you to empty the pool. All I'm asking you is to grab onto the edge. That's the power of a tiny tweak. Number 2, they fit into our everyday life. Let's be real. You don't have time to redo your entire morning routine, declutter your whole house, or even create a Pinterest-worthy recipe mismatched meal plan, right? Like it's too much. But one shift, planning one meal, decluttering one drawer, changing one tiny thing about your morning routine, putting on your shoes before you eat breakfast, which has worked in our house, that I can do. All right, tiny little shifts. Number 3, they help you get unstuck without the pressure of getting it perfect. Oh my goodness. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Moms live in this weird tension of trying to do it all and also feel like we're constantly falling short. Can I get an amen? But tweaks help pull us out of that trap. Instead of fix everything, a tweak says just change one tiny little thing. That's it. Progress without pressure. Number 4, they grow with your season. Here's the thing, life shifts, motherhood seasons change. I'm just in this new season of track, baseball, and dance. And when I tell you life is very full between the hours of 3 and 8 p.m. and I flop into bed at 8:30, I ain't lying. And some of you are saying, shaking your head as you're driving your kids around. Motherhood is one long season of constantly changing schedules. Baby become toddlers, toddlers start school, and suddenly you're coordinating 6 people's schedules. Tweaks are flexible. I talk about this a lot. If routines and rhythms don't bend, they will break. And that's the beautiful thing about a tweak. It's so small that it can bend and it can change without breaking. And I love that about a tweak. Number 5. They're how your brain actually builds habits. Let's go back to neuroplasticity and brain and habit formation. James Clear made this insanely popular with his book Atomic Habits. But this isn't just cute advice, it's science. Your brain can't sustain massive change all at once, but it can repeat a tiny action until it becomes automatic. And that's what we want, right? Less thinking, less decision fatigue, and more margin. So instead of saying, I have to fix my whole life right now, we can say, hey, what's a tiny tweak that can move me forward in the trajectory of where I want to go? And that's the goal. Okay. Your life isn't broken. It doesn't need a total redo. It's like banana bread. So I have this famous banana bread recipe, famous, quote unquote, in my family. Really just with my kids. They love my banana bread, okay? And over time, I've kind of tweaked it and changed it. It was a fine banana bread when I started. But over time, I tweaked it a little bit here and there. Less flour, I cooked it this way, all the little things. You can find the recipe in our cookbook, in Simple Purposeful Kitchen Cookbook, shameless plug. But just little readjustments here and there. And the tweak that capped it off is chocolate chips. That should be a life motto. When in doubt, add chocolate chips. But that was the tweak, right? That just shifted it over the edge. Just a tiny little thing. And here's the thing. Chances are you're probably making tiny tweaks already. You're probably already doing that. Switching up recipes, changing up routines, checking out these different things. You just never gave yourself credit for the tiny tweaks. You didn't realize that they counted. You've been undervaluing the impact that they're making because you're so smart. You're already doing this. All right. So let's talk about some tiny tweaks that you may already be doing. You've heard me talk about on the podcast, but they are insanely impactful. They pack a punch for not much effort. These are pulled from my real, lived out chaos. They've saved me time, stress, decision fatigue, and most importantly, they've given me space to breathe. And as an aside, some of them have created products because I figured if this is a tool that's going to help, I want to make it even easier by creating a product that just makes it even simpler. So number one, the brain dump tweak. This is like word vomiting all over a piece of paper. Everything that you have in your brain, you dump it onto a piece of paper. I am notorious for putting things I've already done down because it makes me feel more productive. And if you do that too, well, you're in good company. But if you've ever felt like you have 47 tabs open on your computer, and if that is your brain, you need a brain dump. You're trying to remember too much, and when we write it down, we're 42% more likely to remember it. So dump your brain onto paper and then organize it by priority. This needs to get done. I'd like to get this done. This is a pipe dream. I might get to it this week or something along those lines. And what you're going to find is a straight path forward of what must get done, like to get done, and would like to get done. And now you know where you need to go. Less stress and less brain clutter. Number two, sketch out your week and your meals. If I could tell you one thing as a busy mom, life is unpredictable. Right before I got on this podcast, I got an email that said, we're not having track practice or the track meet today. My entire afternoon just shifted monumentally before I hopped onto this microphone, right? No longer are we going to be on the side of a track, which I am glad because it's supposed to snow in April. Yes, you heard that correctly. So I'm fine with not doing that. But that has shifted everything, right? But the thing about sketching out your weekend meals is even if everything shifts, you have a general outline of where you're going to go. So when things shift, you know how they can shift and where they can shift. Like, okay, oh, our microwave broke this week. That's nice. Okay, when can the repairman come? Well, because I sketched out my week, I kind of know where in the week that would be a good idea, right? So it's not that we have everything stamped in stone and we can't make any adjustments. It's so that we can make adjustments with the understanding of what we have going on. Plus, it no longer, we are the gatekeeper of so many things. And when we sketch it out and we put it on the wall, we can take some of that burden off of our shoulders and place that onus onto our family members as well. And sketching out our meals, our family has to eat. If you do nothing else, if you make no other tweak but sketch out a super simple meal plan for your family, I'm telling you, it's going to simplify your life. And I'm going to go ahead and just put in the show notes my simple 7-day no-brainer meal rotation. Literally, I have ideas for all 7 days of the week. You can just plug and play them right into your meal planner, and you have a simple game plan for how you're going to feed your family. It is easier than you think, but it reaps a bigger dividend than you will ever understand until you stop doing it one day. All right, sketch out your weeks and meals. It's the tweak you need. Number 3, this is another powerful tweak. Powerful. It's not what you're doing, but when you're doing it. Think about that. It's not what you're doing, but when you're doing it. Could you tweak when you do something, whether that's the laundry, whether that's when you eat dinner, whether that's when you wash your face or make your bed or go to bed or wake up, whatever it is. Maybe it's not what you're doing, but when you're doing it. You've heard me tell this story before, but it's been transformational in informing this idea. I used to never wash my face. I am in my 40s now, and wrinkles are like popping up like wrinkles on linen, if you know what I mean. And I don't have an iron to wrinkle them out like I do for linen pants. So I need to wash my face. I need to take care of it. It's the only one I'm ever going to have. So I was like, why am I never washing my face? Well, I was waiting to do it right before bedtime. And let me just tell you, like, I'm tired at bedtime. Like I told you, my brain is fried. I want to flop into bed. I'm done. But I have no problem going to run carpool without a washed face. I have no problem with that. It's a dark car most of the time. I can put a sweatshirt over my pajamas. I'm good with this. So I started to change when I washed my face, and I do it right after dinner now. I get my dinner, we make dinner, we have dinner, I clean up the kitchen, normally with the help of the kids or my husband. And then after I close up the kitchen for the night so it's ready for tomorrow, I go to my room, I put on my pajamas, and I wash my face. And then I enjoy the rest of the evening with my family, resting and just relaxing or picking up kids or whatever the night entails. It has changed the amount of times I wash my face. I'm telling you, I probably went from like once in a blue moon to nearly every single night. And the only tweak I made is when I did it. So if you are not doing something, the tweak you might need is when you do it. When you do it. Okay. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is, and this is probably the quietest tweak, but it's probably the most powerful. And I want to pause here for a minute because sometimes the tweak you need isn't on your calendar, it's in your mindset. And I want you to ask yourself, why am I making this tweak? Why does this even matter? What am I simplifying for? Because here's the thing, if we don't define what we want more of in our life, we'll just keep chasing less of everything else. So before we tweak another thing, I want you to think about why we're tweaking, right? Like, because it's our knee-jerk reaction to be like, yeah, I want to do that tweak. And oh, yeah, I want to do that. But why? Why? Why are we are not tweaking just to be more efficient? We're not simplifying just to get more done. Because if we're not careful, we'll fall into the trap of tweaking our life for tweaking's sake. I like that. Stop tweaking your life for tweaking's sake. Checking off boxes, making things smoother, but we'll never ask ourselves, what is this all for? Do you remember when I said, do you even like the life you're living? This is the point of tweaking. Progress doesn't always equal happiness. We have been sold the story that simplifying and speeding up will somehow make us happier in and of itself. Cars are supposed to free up free time. Remember when you had horse and buggy? Yeah, cars were supposed to free up free time. Phones were supposed to make connection easier. Light bulbs extended our day. Amazon made shipping faster. And streaming apps and AI promises ease. And they do make things more efficient. But have they made us happier? Or just busier, more overwhelmed, or more distracted? Have we used that time purposefully? The truth is, progress isn't the same as peace, and simplification alone isn't the goal. We just can't clear the clutter, tweak our way to a simpler life. We have to choose what we're going to do with that space that we're making. It's like taking the phone out of your pocket and grabbing it and saying, you can't have this anymore. Go do something that makes you happy. Well, that's hard for people, right? Because we don't even know what makes us happy. If you haven't thought about it, you're just going to sit there staring at the wall. Or worse yet, go grab your phone and start scrolling again because you know what? It's a quick dopamine hit. That's why this next piece matters so much. If we're going to simplify and then live our lives on purpose so that we can live a life that we love, we have to know what makes us happy. And it's not just to get more done, but it's to become more of who we love and a life we enjoy. All right, so let's talk about what actually makes us happy. There was a Harvard study. It's the longest study on record. It's 85 plus years study where they took these Harvard students and they checked in on them. I think it was annually, and then because now it's been so long, they've gone down the generations of tracking hundreds of people over the course of their lives and then generations to follow them of what made a happy and fulfilled life. And after decades of research, do you know what they found? The number one predictor of happiness and health isn't money, it isn't things, it isn't your latest Amazon haul, it isn't success, it isn't status, it isn't the 100th episode of the podcast. It's relationships. Close, connected, meaningful relationships. Not the number of people you know, but the depth of the connection you have. Not perfect families, because nobody's got one. If you don't know who the nut in your family is, well, you are. I know who the nut is, and it's not me. Okay, just wanted to clarify. But consistent love and support in a family. Not flashy friendships, but the people that you can laugh with, cry with, and be yourself fully around. This is what we're making space for when we simplify and we tweak. When we simplify, declutter, and make tweaks, we're fighting for dinners around the table with your people, a spontaneous walk with your spouse, a movie night when no one's multitasking, the margin to actually see and enjoy people in your life. This is what makes us happy, and this is why we tweak our way to a life we love. It's not having a perfect life, but having one where we're present and we can enjoy the things that make us happy. Now, I want to take it one step further because that's all well and good. Great, Erin. Relationships make us happy. But I want to go a little bit deeper because I've always hated the question, what are your priorities? What are your values? I'm always like, I don't know, faith, family, I don't know, my work, whatever. Here's where I like to just get down to a granular basis based on what makes you happy. I want you to do a gratitude journal exercise. Are you starting to see why yet another product is on the market? Why we created yet another product? Because this is so paramount in living a simple and purposeful life, the gratitude journal. And here's why. I want you to start noticing what's already good in your life. Okay? Not what you should be grateful for, not what looks impressive on print or in real life, but what actually makes you happy. It fills your heart. It makes you smile. It makes you do a happy dance. Okay, so here's your practical invitation. I want you to grab a notebook. You can grab the Simple Purposeful Living Gratitude Journal. It's sold on Amazon now, or you can do it on an app on your phone. And for the next week, every single day, or you could just do it for the next couple of days, whatever works for you, I want you to just write down 3 to 5 things. You can write more, but I think at least 3 to 5 at least, that brought you a moment of peace, that made you smile, that brought you joy, or just made you feel content. All right? Things like the way your child giggled at breakfast. Quincy has the best belly laugh, by the way, and I always write it down in my gratitude journal. The sunrise. I noticed it this morning. It was one of those where it was like painted streaks across the sky. It was gorgeous. A warm cup of coffee. Talking with your kids side by side, shoulder to shoulder in the dark before they go to bed. Catching up with a friend over Marco Polo, or better yet, over a walk. All right. The friend that sent you snail mail that you haven't seen in forever. Shout out to Heather. Thank you for sending me snail mail and checking in on me this week. These aren't just the feel-good moments. These are breadcrumbs. These are the clues that help you remember what makes you happy. And this is the stuff that when we simplify and we tweak, we can make more time for and we can purposefully invest in our lives. And this takes a functioning life to a fulfilling life. It helps us to escape overwhelm and not escape our life. It helps us to feel satisfied even in the hardest seasons because we're filling our lives, even little bits of time, with things that bring us joy. All right. So I want you to try that. Would you try it? It's your practical tweak of the week is to get out your gratitude journal or a notepad or in your note in your apps on your phone and just write things down because these are going to give you the clues to what brings you happiness. And then you can tweak from there to simplify so you can make them happen. Okay, but sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. I love that. I love that phrase. I think of it all the time. And I have to tell you the story about my grandmother. She's no longer with us, but I'll never forget it. It was her 70th birthday. She was visiting the lake. And back then, they didn't know how to swim. I think most of my grandparents didn't know how to swim. And so she was sitting in a plastic Adirondack chair in the lake. And I don't even know how it happened because it happened so fast. But you can imagine an Adirondack sitting in the lake. I mean, maybe her bottom was touching the water, but mostly just her feet. And I don't know how it happened, but somehow she fell out of the chair, okay? And she is floundering, just arms and legs. I'm drowning, right? And we're right there. My mom's like, "Stand up." And she's like, I'm drowning. I can't stand up. Like, literally thinks her life is ending right before her eyes. And so my mom puts out her hand and says, "Stand up. I have you." Like, grabs her hand and helps her stand up. And the water is literally lapping at her, below her knees. Like, that's how deep the water is. But how often in our life are we just like my grandma, where life suddenly, we just like go sideways. It happens so fast. You're like, how did this happen? I mean, I sort of feel like this is happening in my life right now when we added in track and baseball and all the spring stuff. Like, I'm like, I'm floundering, right? And I'm telling my friend this, and she's like, "Erin, take a beat. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to have everything under control. What's the next right step?" And sometimes in our life, we can feel like my grandma, where we're drowning. I felt it myself recently. And we can't see the forest through the trees. We don't know the tweak we can make because we're literally in flight or fight, or we're literally so overwhelmed our brain can't think clearly. And we need other people to come alongside us and say, "Hey, What's the next thing? What's the tiny tweak you can make? I get people all the time that'll say to me, like, my morning is bonkers. And I'm like, okay, what part of your morning is bonkers? What exactly is hard right now? What makes it so difficult? And what's one small part of that puzzle that's in my control? So, for example, what exactly feels hard right now? Our 3 to 8 p.m. feels really hard right now. It does. Like, we're literally, they said 4 kids would be fun, they said, when they were little and they were cute and they were portable and I could carry them. And now they're going in 4 different directions. What's one small part of that that's in my control? What can I control? What can I control of that? And what's something today that I can do to make it 10% easier? What's a tiny tweak that I can make that makes it 10% easier? Here's what we have to do in really busy seasons around here. Here's what I have in my control. I kind of know what's happening. And Scott and I can have a conversation every single morning with our 2 big kids and say, this is what it's going to look like. And it's bumpy at first, right? Like last night, even we tweaked it again. And I said, hey, Scott, can you just text us to say, yes, I've got Vera. That way we just confirm it one more time. I'm not worrying that Vera's going to get left on the bus while I'm picking up Vera or Lucille at dance, right? And so we're just tweaking our way little bit by little bit. So we're not only just planning out our week, we're also having these daily conversations of this is what this afternoon's going to look like. And then they cancel the track meet and everything changes. So then what do I have in my control? I can text out my family and say, okay, here's the new plan as it stands now. And here's the last question that I love, because oftentimes we can give the best advice to other people. I have the best advice for other people. By golly, I do, whether it's in their business or in their life, right? Because we can see the forest through the trees. It's so much clearer for us. So here's the question. What would you tell a friend in the same situation? What would you tell them? And oftentimes the tweak is right there. The proof is in the pudding. Okay, so let me ask you those questions one more time. I think they're super powerful. And I love doing this with a friend. I think it's so helpful. What's hard right now? What exactly is hard right now? Like, don't just say my morning. Like, what about your morning is hard? Like, same with me. Like, if I just said my life feels hard right now. Okay, but what part of the day? 3 to 8 p.m. Great. What's one small part of this that's in your control? What can you control? Because there's going to be a lot that's out of your control. What's one thing you could do today to make it 10% easier? That's your tweak. And if all else fails, ask yourself this question. What would you say to a friend who is going through this? What would you tell them? Okay. We've walked through why tweaks matter, why they work, why we should even tweak our lives, because we're looking for more space for happiness. And sometimes we need our friends to help us out because we can't see the forest for the trees. As you all know, it's been 5 years since the pandemic. Quincy does not need any special education at his school. He graduated from physical, speech, and occupational therapy despite having me as a short-term therapist. By the way, I did not go into that as a full-time gig. Once was enough for me. Life didn't magically get easier. As you can tell, we're still very much figuring things out as we go. But the world did start to settle, and in the quiet that followed the chaos, I realized something important. The answer to overwhelm isn't a one-way ticket to a deserted island, although for a week it wouldn't be bad. I'd take the fruity Mai Tai. It's intention. That's the tweak. That's the idea. We don't need a full life overhaul. Actually, that's just going to add to more overwhelm. But what we need is a tiny tweak. It helped me feel more in control. It helped me to manage the stress and the overwhelm. And it also, not only that, it created space for joy, for me to go from, am I even enjoying this life, to really enjoying the view along the way. We are going 80 miles an hour down a road. We have this road that leads from our small town to our bigger town. And so often I just see where I'm going and I never look out the window and I don't always look around and to enjoy who's in the car. And one day my 7-year-old's like, that cow is having a baby. And sure enough, the water's breaking. I mean, life lessons in the Midwest small town living. But I just thought, how often do I miss the beauty of the present because I am so focused on the overwhelm or where we're headed? And I hope these tiny tweaks help us to be more present in our lives and so that we can enjoy them and laugh and share these special moments with our family, because we only get one life. This isn't a dress rehearsal. We don't get to rewind. Gosh darn it, I wish I could figure that out. Streaming services can't we? But you don't need to change everything you have in your life to love it. You just need one simple, purposeful tweak to begin. You need to just flex your fear muscle a little bit and try. So, what's one part of your life that feels hard right now? And what's one tiny tweak that could make life feel a little bit lighter? I want you to try it. Maybe it's a routine shift. Maybe it's asking for help. Maybe it's just taking 5 minutes to walk around the block, breathe, and rest. I was feeling pretty crabby last night, so I offered to take Quincy to baseball. I was feeling a little overwhelmed, and I said, I'm going to take myself on a little walk. 45 minutes later, I felt better. I came home in a much better mood. It was the tiny tweak I needed. Because the goal isn't perfection. Gosh darn it, I had the best bangs, and I really worked on making those things perfect in high school. But guess what? Life isn't about perfect bangs or perfect plans. It's about progress. The goal isn't less mess, it's more meaning. The goal isn't to escape your life, it's to love it on purpose. You have the tools, you have the clarity, and you have the power to tweak your way to a life you love. And it all starts with one simple, brave step. I hope that this has encouraged you today. And if it has, would you share it with a friend? I'm just so grateful that you're here on this 100th episode. This message is truly the heartbeat of everything that I do and what I share online and in the podcast and on a blog post and in my weekly emails. Everything I do stems from this idea that we don't need a life overhaul. We can tweak our way to a life that we love, but not just simplifying for simplifying's sake, but so that we can make space for more happiness and joy as well. And if your organization is ever looking for a speaker, whether it's in person or online, I'd love to bring this message or a message of meal planning or anything else to that. It's one of my favorite ways to connect with you all when I get to meet with you in person, whether that's women, moms, teens, or communities that want to simplify with intention. So you can reach out directly to me through my website at erin@simplepurposefulliving.com, or you can always DM me at Instagram at Simple Purposeful Living. I'd love to chat with you. But until next time, I hope you remember, you don't need a life overhaul. One tiny tweak will do. It will take you from a functioning life to a fulfilling life, and one that you love. You don't need to escape from your life. Just a tiny tweak will help you to escape from the overwhelm. Have a great week, friends, and happy 100th episode to the Simple Purposeful Living Podcast. Here's to 100 more. If you liked this episode, it would mean so much if you'd share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review so others can find our show. Until next time, you can find me at Simple Purposeful Living on Instagram and Facebook.